several types of classifications up till now. But the most important among all these classifications is functional classification. Functional classification means whatever functions of the paints which are there for a particular purpose, we group the paints according to their functions. That is known as functional classification. Please take out your notebooks and start noting down the details. Okay? Please take out your workbooks. Now, the first coat, in fact, a painting system needs so many coats, is it not? Primer, sealer, undercoat, finishing coat. There are several coats which are required to get a proper result, is it not? Just primer or just finishing paint is not sufficient. You have to use a large set of coats to get the final coat. Now here we are trying to discuss right from primer how we proceed further, because our overall aim is twofold in painting. One is protection. Protection is most important. Protection from moisture, protection from rains, protection from salt spray, protection from frost. All these protections are very important. So one important aspect in using a paint is protection. But the other thing is also important, that it should have good appearance. नुसते गुण असून चालत नाही, सुंदरता लागतेच. है की नाही? You should have good properties, but at the same time, the more beautiful you are, the more valued you are. Is it not? So protection and appearance, a glossy appearance, a matte appearance, or appearance is also equally important. So the whole idea of painting is to have good properties, at the same time in the finishing coat the best possible appearance. This is the main function of applying all the coating system. Now first you write down the functions of primers. Please write down. What are the functions of primers? The first function of primer is to have total adhesion to the coating system. Total adhesion to the coating system. The most important thing in paint that it should adhere very strongly on the surface. If it does not adhere, then it will fall down or it will come out. So the first basic requirement is a strong adhesion, because this is the first coat. It is close to your metal, whether it is stainless steel, aluminium or any other surface. So first coat must have excellent adhesion. There is one point which I would, do you understand the difference between adhesion and cohesion? Anybody?
Sir, cohesion means force between same molecule, and adhesion means force between different molecules.
Correct. What you answer is correct. Adhesion is related to two different type of surfaces which come close together, then it comes adhesion. And cohesion means whatever material is there, it gets thickened up and within its molecules is try to adhere. Then in that case, it becomes cohesion. So you must understand the difference between adhesion and cohesion. That is very, very important. Is it not? So what is our first function? Very strong adhesion. Bonding should be there between the surface and the paint which you are applying. Adhesion, second important, this is first function. The second function is protection from corrosion. Write down. The primer should protect the surface. That is very, very important.
Sir, your mic is on.
हो काय झालं?
सर माईक सुरू आहे म्हटलं.
हो पण माझ्या ह्याच्यातनं कनेक्टिव्हिटी गेली आहे. कशी गेली मला माहित नाही. एक मिनिट. हा पुन्हा आले. ओके. So first function is adhesion. Second function is protection from corrosion. What is corrosion? Try to understand corrosion. A layer of iron is formed. Iron reacts with the oxygen and a iron oxide layer is formed. That is in short what is corrosion. So whatever primer which we are using, it must protect the surface from the phenomena of corrosion. It cannot 100% protect. Remember it. You can prevent corrosion. You cannot ban corrosion. You can prevent corrosion. So your primer should have the capacity to prevent corrosion. It also should absorb. It also should fight the. It should not absorb moisture. The surface after application of primer should not absorb moisture. The primers what we make should have following properties. You can write down. Okay. Its viscosity should be ideal. Write down. Viscosity should be ideal. Try to understand this point. If I get a very thick paint, which I am not able to coat properly by brush or spray, then it is useless. So whenever I design or formulate a primer, it should have such consistency which I can apply. If I have brush, I will have a little different consistency. Spray, it will be little thinner. So proper viscosity of application is most important thing. Second thing is effective solvent release. Write down second point. Effective solvent release. Most of the paints always contain 15 to 25% solvent, and the first stage in the process of drying is effective release of the solvent. Release, the solvent should not be retained in the coating, otherwise it will not dry. So whatever solvent is there, effectively it should be removed in few minutes. That is very essential. Then it should have good adhesion both to the dry and wet surface. Remember, it should have good adhesion to the dry and wet surface. Why wet surface? Because sometimes there is moisture in the air and the surface may not be 100% dry. It may have some moisture. So in that case, you must have this adhesion both for dry and wet conditions. The next property which is expected in a primer is high scratch and impact resistance. Write down please. High scratch and impact resistance. To give the difference, scratch means when we apply a nail on the surface, it is scratch hardness. And when we throw a stone on your painted surface, then it is impact. So whether it is scratched by a knife or nail or anything, or being thrown at it, your paint should be strong enough for both the conditions. Then the surface have tendency to undergo dimensional changes. Write down. The surface has a tendency to undergo dimensional changes. Paint must have sufficient elasticity. Write down. तुझ्याकडे प्रणव, तुझ्याकडे तू लिहित नाही आहे का? लिही ना प्रणव.
हो सर.
पेन पेन्सिल घेऊन बाईस लिहिते.
हो सर.
हा. Then next point is surface must provide key for the subspectrum. You write down, I will explain it. The surface must provide key to subsequent coats. Surface must provide key for subsequent coats. What does it mean? Try to understand. Now, if the surface is extremely plain like glass, next coat will not adhere at all. If it is too smooth or glossy surface, it will not absorb or it will not take up the next coat. Is it not? If the surface is too rough, then all paint will go inside. So you must have a coat which will have sufficient micro level porosity so that next coat can be applied. That is key and lock arrangement. Means if it has got micro level places where the next coat can enter, then it is good. If it is too smooth, it will not work. If it is too rough, that too will not work. Is it not? Then if you are using a corrosion inhibiting pigment, you have to use some corrosion inhibiting pigment. One of the corrosion inhibiting pigment is zinc chromate. Write down. Corrosion inhibiting pigment क्या है? Zinc chromate. How it works? Actually, whatever film which you are making, it is a sort of ester. Whether it is oil or alkyd resin, it is basically an ester of fatty acid and alcohol. Okay. Now, with time, it has a tendency to break down. I mean, fatty acid or other acids will be liberated. So this zinc chromate is a basic material which works as a policeman. As soon as the acid is released, it will react with it. Some zinc chromate will be lost, but further damage will not be done. You can call zinc chromate as a policeman for corrosion. It restricts. Suppose there is a breakdown in the binder, fatty acid, phthalic anhydride or any acid is released, zinc chromate will automatically immediately react with it. So less the acid on the surface, less the damage or less the corrosion. Do you understand this point? Last but not the least is high degree of impermeability. High degree of impermeability. High degree of impermeability to moisture and oxygen. So these are the various requirements for an ideal primer. Now I will show you the composition of a primer. I am showing you. Can you read it? Just tell me. Can you read it? Just tell me.
Yes, sir.
Are you able to read it?
Yes, sir. We are able to see headline.
सर आधा दिख रहा है सर, आधा दिख रहा है.
हाँ.
Headline.
अभी दिख रहा है ऊपर का?
No, sir.
अभी
No,
तो
sir.
कुछ
नहीं दिख रहा है. मैंने लेटर्स में लिखा, दिखना तो चाहिए. अब देखो.
थोड़ा ऊपर करो सर।
हाँ
थोड़ा ऊपर, थोड़ा ऊपर.
हाँ
सर थोड़ा दूर से, थोड़ा दूर से
हाँ.
ऊपर
और
से
ऊपर.
आता वरती करा सर.
Can you read?
आता
तो
वरती
थोड़ा
करा
ऊपर
सर.
कर दीजिए.
सर वरती करा
Can you
थोडं.
read it? Just time
सर
on.
थोडं वर करा.
हाँ
अजून अजून वर
अजून
करा
थोडं.
सर.
हाँ
अजून अजून.
हाँ.
हाँ सर.
आता
सर
रेड
एक
ऑक्साईड
साइड दिख
परत
रहा है.
क्लिअरली दिसतंय का?
हो
हो
सर रेड ऑक्साईड पर्यंत.
सर फक्त
हा.
पहिला कंपोनेंट दिसतोय.
बरं आपण मग तोंडीच सांगू. माझा विचार होता डायरेक्ट तुम्हाला ह्याच्यावरनं लिहिता येईल, पण तसं जमणार नाही बहुतेक. रेड ऑक्साईड 35.9%. राईट डाऊन. रेड ऑक्साईड 35.9%. झिंक क्रोम 10%. Micronized talc 3%. Micronized talc 3%. Whiting 1.5%. Whiting 1.5%. Lecithin 0.4%. Lecithin 0.4%. Medium oil alkyd is 36.4%. Mineral turpentine is 11.4%. Now dryers, lead naphthenate 24% lead. This is 1%. Lead naphthenate in which 24% lead is there, it is to be taken in a ratio of 1%. While cobalt naphthenate, you have to take 0.4%. Remember that red oxide and zinc chrome should be free from soluble salts. Red oxide and zinc chrome should be free from soluble salts. Now try to understand this composition. What kind of composition, what is the role of various ingredients? Try to understand. This red oxide is a natural product normally, quite cheaper. Say around 5 to 7 rupees per kg. Very cheap material. It is red in color, so it will have good coverage. It will give. So it is a pigment. Its function is pigment. Then zinc chrome. Zinc chrome is a yellow colored pigment which is basic in nature. Yellow colored pigment which is basic in nature, and its objective is to protect the surface from corrosion. Corrosion preventing material. Corrosion preventing material. Then why we are using micronized talc and whiting? Micronized talc is 3%, whiting is 1.5%, and lecithin is 0.4%. But let us try to understand the role of three. This red oxide being very heavy in density, it will have a tendency to settle at the bottom. If a bad primer is there, then everything will come on the bottom, and it will have a huge deposit. So this micronized talc, whiting and lecithin, they do a common job of suspending the pigment into the pigment. They have micronized talc, whiting and lecithin particularly, they homogenize the home material. What is their role? To homogenize, because pigment and vehicle has a tendency to separate out. Pigment and vehicle or solvent has it is a heterogeneous system in which pigment tries to come out. It settles down the bottom and vehicle has a tendency to go in second layer and solvent will still go to the third layer. It is a total heterogeneous system. So how to make it work? The only way is add micronized whiting, lecithin. What role they will play? They will homogenize the whole material. They will homogenize the whole material. And medium oil alkyd is a binder which binds pigment, solvent and other ingredients. And this medium oil alkyd is also responsible for drying, hardness, durability and other properties. So medium oil alkyd 36.4% is a very key basic ingredient which gives properties of drying, hardness, durability, resistance, etc. Most important factor in this paint formulation is medium oil alkyd. Is it not? Then mineral turpentine is a solvent. What is its role? It maintains the optimum viscosity for application. To what extent the pigment and binder may be good, but if they are not of desirable consistency, you cannot apply a paint. Pigment may be A grade, binder may be A grade, but they will not be spread on the surface. So what I need is a solvent. Is it not? So this mineral turpentine is 11.4%. Then comes lead, cobalt, naphthenate. They are metallic dryers. They catalyze the process of drying. The metals which are present in these organic molecules, they serve as a nucleus for accelerating the process of drying. To give you an example, if I don't add dryers, my paint may take 8 to 10 hours for drying. If I don't add dryer and prepare a primer, what will happen? It will not dry even in 8 to 10 hours. But if I use proper amount of dryers, the same paint will dry in 2.5 hours. So that is the role of various ingredients of the primer. And now I think you will understand that why we are applying primer. Okay. The second coat is known as ACALER, sealer. This is particularly useful when the surface on which you are applying the paint is porous in nature. Say plaster of Paris, cement, wood. These are the examples of porous surfaces. All these surfaces have micropores on their level. Just try to compare. Your iron doesn't have such thing. But cement surface, plaster surface or wood, they are having, if you look at their structure, there are micropores in it. So when you apply the coating, a part of the medium will be sucked by those holes. Once you apply by capillary effect, the medium will be drawn into those pores. So contact between pigment and binder will go lessen. If the binder is absorbed by those pores, then what will happen? Pigment will fall down. Is it not? So we have to seal these pores. How to seal them? The composition is known as sealer. This sealer is nothing but a highly pigmented composition. Write down. Sealer is a highly pigmented composition. But one thing you have to keep in mind, that sealer should not be very costly. Remember it, because it is going to be second stage. Final coat is not there. So it need not have a very high hiding power or something like that. It may be a more or less extender plus little pigment that will serve the purpose. Is it not? So I will give you now the composition of sealer that will explain you the whole issue. Write down the composition of a sealer. It is mainly containing lithophone, Lithopone, lithophone. This is pigment cum extender. It is a mixture of zinc sulfide plus barium sulfate. Zinc sulfide plus barium sulfate, that is known as lithophone. Barium sulfate is cheaper, while zinc sulfide is pigment. So naturally, but zinc sulfide is 25 to 30%. So naturally, the cost of lithophone as a whole is very less. Okay. So lithophone, we are using about 30.76%. Write down. Lithophone percentage is 30.76. Okay. Then we use as a binder gold size varnish. Gold size varnish. Why gold size? Because this varnish was developed initially to adhere the gold leaf. It is nothing but linseed plus some other resin and solvent. That is known as gold size varnish. It is 61.50%. 61.50%. Then mineral turpentine. Then mineral turpentine 7.74%. This sealer is normally applied by brush, or if it is a little thicker, then you can apply it by knife also. Sealers are normally, because micropores are there, so we add solvent and make it so that you can brush it properly. That is how sealer is employed. What it will do, try to understand the function. Some surfaces are porous in nature. What we want to block the pores so that the next coat will properly apply on them. You understand it? So this is known as sealer. The third important coat which we are going to apply is stopper. 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 Now, what is the difference between a sealer and stopper? Stopper is designed to cover the deep indentations. Indentations. Deep indentations means nails, holes, cracks. When you want to paint a surface, the surface is not uniform. It has got, if it is a wall, then you make some holes. You apply nails on them. Then in some positions there are cracks on the surface. Is it not? So without stopper, if you try to apply the paint, it will not give its result, because a part of pigment will go into the cracks, a part of paint will go into the holes. So this stopper is a highly pigmented composition, and it is in the form of paste or putty. Paste or putty. You must have seen the advertisement of Birla white putty. Have you seen? TV पे बिरला व्हाइट पिट्टी का
Yes, sir.
व्हाइट पुट्टी का एडवर्टाइजमेंट आता है. Have you seen it? Huh?
Yes, sir.
So it is nothing like that. This is that putty only. And it is a very good item for manufacture of small scale industry. One of our students, he was doing this business for 3 years of making and selling white putty. Now what happened, that bigger companies have taken over the thing. Earlier, some items were reserved for small scale, say red oxide, putty, etc. And finishing coats were made by international or high status companies. So that distribution helped the small scale industry as well as the large scale industry. But now the scenario has changed. Everybody is making everything. If I could get Asian Paints red oxide at a reasonable cost, why I will go to a small scale manufacturer? This is the difficulty. Earlier there was restriction from the government, etc., that you must buy material from small scale if it is of good quality. And therefore there was a natural bifurcation in selling. Bigger companies never wanted to sell either putty, primer, or these things. They are not interested in manufacturing. And they were only making finishing paints in which there is higher margins are there. But now the scenario has changed. Everybody is making everything, and therefore this has adversely affected the small scale paint industry. Because competing Asian paints with their primer is very difficult, because there is more sophistication, better equipment, better manpower, other things are also. So earlier, at least 5 of our students, they have started a paint factory and they were working it with very nicely for around 10 years. They have made good marks, घर वर बना लिया है, अच्छी position है उनकी. They are all LIT students. It is not. But now the situation has changed a little bit. Why? Because market competition has gone more stringent. The margins are going down. This fact we have also to remember. So write down the composition of one stopper. That will help you to understand things better. Composition of a stopper. Titanium dioxide 6%. Titanium dioxide 6%. Barytes, Barytes. Barytes means barium sulfate. Barytes is a natural extender. Barytes 39%. Whiting 36%. And short oil alkyd 19%. You have to apply them with knife because they are paste-like consistency. So by using a knife, you have to, suppose there is a pore or crack or anything, then this stopper you will take on the knife and apply it. The main property of this is it is rather highly pigmented. So minimum shrinkage is there, and then you can rub it down for final coat. That is known as stopper. One simple example, if a painter comes to your house and he can make on-site putty, how he makes it, let us try to understand. It is glazed putty formulation. You can write down glazed putty formulation. GLAZZY, glazy putty. Glazy putty whiting is 85.8%. Whiting is 85.8%. Linseed oil 13.8%. And soft soap 0.4%. Simple. In a bucket he makes it. He will take linseed oil, add whiting and a small amount of soft soap and make a paste out of it. That he will use it as a putty. So
Sir, what was the last ingredient?
Huh?
What was the last ingredient?
Last ingredient, soft soap. Because linseed oil and whiting will not mix together. Is it not?
Yes.
So for mixing, we have to use a small amount of soft soap so that the whole thing will homogenize and can be applied. So this is about stopper. The next coat in the line is undercoat. Next coat is undercoat. You can note down the functions of undercoat. First, write down the functions of undercoat. Just see the wall behind where you are working. Whether in a wall or any surface, you will find that it is not uniform in color. Somewhere it is little blackish, somewhere it is brownish, or the color has faded. So many possibilities are there. So if I try to have same result in the finishing coat, I must cover these irregularities. For finishing coat, I want a uniform coloration on the surface. Then only the finishing coat will give better result. Let us imagine a situation in which the surface is somewhere brownish, somewhere greenish, somewhere whitish. So all these color differences will be reflected in your finishing coat. So function of undercoat is to provide build and opacity. To provide, write down, to provide build and opacity. Opacity means good covering and build means a uniform color. Suppose if my finishing coat is white, then I will use a white undercoat. Suppose my finishing coat is green, I can use green undercoat. If it is say yellow, then I can use yellow undercoat. But this should be slightly lighter than finishing coat. The color should be slightly lighter than the finishing coat. That is very essential. One of the conditions for undercoat, it should set rapidly. There should not be sagging. Sagging यानी curtaining बोलते हैं उसको. ऐसा पेंट लगाने के बाद ऐसा खाली 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 हो गए तो चलो sagging बनता. So that undercoat should not have that sagging effect or it will spoil the surface. So free from sagging and setting should be rapid and it should have eggshell finish. It should have eggshell finish. Try to understand the meaning of eggshell. Glossy, high gloss means just like mirror. You can see your face in it. That is known as high gloss paint. Then comes semi-gloss paint. Some of the oil-bound distempers or some of the coatings which are applied on the machines, they do not shine too much. About 50% reflection is there. That is known as semi-gloss. And lastly, there is a black surface which will not reflect any light, zero. So this eggshell is between that. Why eggshell? Because again finishing coat should find a key for application. If undercoat is very smooth, the finishing coat will not apply properly. It should have some micro level place or key in which this finishing coat can get inside. And therefore we make use of eggshell finish. And the color should be similar to finishing coat. Color should be similar to finishing coat. If it is white, use white. If it is green, green, like that. I will give you composition of white undercoat. Please write down the composition of white undercoat. There is a grade of titanium dioxide which is known as rutile titanium dioxide. Rutile titanium dioxide, it is 20.3%. Rutile titanium dioxide, how much? 20.3%. Okay. Micronized barytes. Micronized barytes means barium sulfate, 33.9%. Micronized barytes, 33.9%. Okay. Then thixotropic alkyd. I will explain you the meaning. Just write down. Thixotropic alkyd, 21.4%. Thixotropic alkyd, 21.4%. Pale boiled oil, 2.5%. Cobalt dryer, 0.3%. Mineral turpentine, 11%. And
So cobalt dryer कितना?
mineral turpentine, 11.0%.
So cobalt dryer.
Cobalt dryer, 0.3%. And methyl ethyl ketoxime, 0.1%. Methyl ethyl ketoxime, 0.1%. Now try to understand the role of each ingredient. That is very important. When you give a composition, you must understand the role of each component. So titanium gives hiding. If I want a white surface, more the titanium I add, the more whitish will be the surface. It has got the strongest hiding power. Then comes micronized barytes. It is an extender. It does not give hiding, but gives body to the overall paint. And it reduces the cost also. Mechanical strength you can get by using it, but hiding you will not get by using micronized baryte, but still it is used because here our function is to give a ready-made surface for the finishing coat. Then thixotropic means you must have seen ink. अपना पेन का ink जो रहता है, if we press it, the ink comes out. If I don't press it, it remains there. Thixotropy means if you apply pressure, the material will move. And if I don't apply pressure, or if I remove the pressure, the solid consistency will be maintained. That is known as thixotropic composition. Particularly, it goes into inks. Ink में क्या रहता है? Liquid होना. When you write, it should come out. But when you do not force, then it should remain where it is. As soon as you withdraw the force, the consistency should remain solid. That is one of the most important properties and most paying also. In Kota, there is one ink manufacturer who is the largest supplier for inks to all the small scale units which make ball pens. But he has advance order for his medium. Why? Because it has got this particular property and the person has managed to get that particular property in his composition. Then pale boiled oil is again a binder. It gives homogeneity to the overall system. Then methyl ethyl ketoxime, this is an additive. Why it is added? It comes to the surface. When you pack the paint, the ketoxime will come to the surface and it will not allow oxygen to penetrate the surface. Skinning बोलते हैं ना, पेंट में खोलने के बाद थोड़ी स्किन आती है. And if you do not protect the surface, क्या होगा? About 5% will be skin. So by adding this component, what we are doing? We are trying to control the absorption of oxygen. This is an additive which is known as anti-skinning agent. So this is about undercoat. What are the, again we repeat, opacity and build. This is the main reason for applying undercoat, because for finishing coat we want a direct surface, or we can easily paint it, and least amount of finishing paint should be required because that is the costliest ingredient in the whole series. So if I make a mistake in making undercoat or primer, more paint will be required and you will not get the desired results. So that is undercoat. And finally, we come to finishing coat. Finishing paint. Now, finishing paint is the final coat which has to fight environment, which has to fight sunlight, which has to fight frost, which has to fight moisture. If the material is under the sea, then salt will be there, so resistance to salt. All these properties need to be there in your finishing paint. Why? Because it is directly fighting with the environment. आपने आर्मी का कंपोजिशन कभी सुना है? कुछ लोग बोनट फाइटिंग वाले रहते हैं ना, बिल्कुल ऐसा फॉर्मेशन रहता है मिलिट्री का जिसमें सबसे आगे बोनट फाइटर्स रहते हैं. बोनट फाइटर रहने सामने वाला आ गया तो डायरेक्ट बैठ जाए, दैट इज बोनट फाइटिंग. So this finishing paint is coming into direct contact with the environment, whether it is rain, whether it is moisture, whether gases may be there. Sulfur is there in sugar industry. Sulfur dioxide may be there. So this finish should have all the durability characteristics. Not only that, being a finishing paint, the other requirement, it must appear beautiful. सबसे ज्यादा खर्चा कार मैन्युफैक्चरिंग वाले पेंट के ऊपर करते हैं. क्यों करते हैं? कार, स्कूटर, माइक्रोवेव ओवन, इसके ऊपर या फ्रीज, इसके ऊपर जो कोटिंग है, इट इज द कॉस्टलीस्ट कोटिंग. व्हाई? कार बहुत अच्छी चलती है पर उसका कलर अगर खराब है तो नोबडी विल बाय. पेंटिंग में ज्यादा से ज्यादा कंपनी को 5,000 रुपए लगते होंगे, बाकी चीज की कीमत 2 लाख रुपए हो, पर 5,000 रुपए का मटेरियल अगर ठीक नहीं लगा तो लोग बोलेंगे कार बेकार है. Try to understand this point. Means finishing coat is ultimately you are going to sell something and it should have a direct access to the customer. So all cars, you just see their paint, they are wonderfully painted, high gloss, एकदम शाइन रहता है, you can see your faces, इतना अच्छा रहता है वो. Then you buy it. Whether it is a motorcycle, whether it is even bicycles are also painted very nicely these days. Motorcycles, scooties, all these need a paint which is not only durable, but it is also having excellent look. Excellent look, I always don't mean gloss. In some places you do not want gloss. Say wall बहुत शाइन नहीं होना चाहिए, घर का wall शाइन नहीं होना चाहिए ज्यादा. वो डिसेंट कब रहेगा? जबकि थोड़ा कम शाइन रहेगा. But it should appear decent ultimately. Then only somebody will buy it. So two properties which are very important for finishing paint is, one, it should have good hiding. Write down, good hiding power. Decent appearance. And highly durable. Resistance to water, absorption of oxygen, dilute acids, dilute alkalis, salt. To all these chemicals and water, it should not be affected. That is known as finishing coat. And of all the coatings which we have discussed, finishing coat is the costliest material. Finishing coat is the costliest material. Write down the composition of a finishing paint, please. White synthetic enamel. White synthetic enamel. Rutile titanium dioxide 29.3%. maximum amount of hiding. Titanium is the costliest ingredient in paint. It costs you even 150 to 200 rupees per kg. But for finishing paint, I have to use maximum amount of titanium because I want more hiding. I want a stronger color. Appearance should be good. So I have to add more titanium. Just compare with your undercoat or other coat. Their titanium is very less. Is it not? So titanium 29.3%, coated calcium carbonate 1.4%. Coated calcium carbonate 1.4%. Then long oil alkyd. ये लॉन्ग ऑयल मैं आपको समझाऊंगा बाद में क्या होता है. लॉन्ग ऑयल एल्किड, मोर परसेंटेज ऑफ ऑयल मीन्स लॉन्ग ऑयल एल्किड. It is 52.2%. I will tell you a brief history. Earlier, the oil and paint technology were in one department. HBTI Kanpur or UDCT have only one department which was known as oil and paint technology. Because oil is an integral part of the paint. Even today, Amravati University has a degree in oil and paint technology. And why we are learning all this? Because as a oil technologist, a large amount of long oil alkyd is used in paint, in tons, where oil is the basic ingredient. Long oil में 75% तक oil रहता है. तो आप बोल सकते हैं कि पेंट में ऑयल का इंपॉर्टेंस है क्योंकि अप टू 75% वी आर यूजिंग ऑयल. इज इट नॉट? सो लॉन्ग ऑयल अल्किड इज 52.2%. मिनरल टर्पेंटाइन 13.3%. डाइपेंटीन 2.1%. Dipentene 2.1%. Recently, we are using zirconium cobalt dryers, cobalt zirconium octet dryers, which contain 6% cobalt and 9% zirconium. This is required in small quantity of 0.4%. Calcium octet is the dryer which is used in a proportion of 4%. And the amount required is 1.2%. So now let us try to understand the role of various ingredients. Just writing the composition is not important. Important is what role anything is playing in the paint. So if I go to the role of each component, titanium dioxide is a hiding pigment. It hides the surface very effectively and gives good shine, good appearance to your paint. So that is the role of titanium. Coated calcium carbonate. Calcium carbonate is coated with stearic acid or some organic component. So calcium carbonate becomes soluble in your organic vehicles easily. So this is used particularly to suspend the pigment into alkyd residue. Because alkyd has a tendency to come out. Titanium doesn't mix properly. So by using this coated calcium carbonate 1.4%, what we are doing? We are trying to bring together long oil alkyd and titanium. They come closer. झूलता रखता है वो उसको. Solids जो है उनको नीचे सेटल नहीं होने देता, उसको झूलते रखता है. There, that is the role of coated calcium carbonate. Then mineral turpentine, 13.3%, solvent, and dipentene is a very strong and good solvent, gives homogeneity to the paint. Dipentene is a bit stronger solvent. So what it will do? It will homogenize the whole thing. It will control the viscosity of the product and give you a smooth finish which you can apply by spray or brush. Then these are new dryers. Nowadays lead is avoided because it is poisonous. So you have to use cobalt and zirconium. Earlier lead is common, but that is avoided in this formulation because lead is poisonous in nature. Then calcium octet combination of calcium, cobalt and zirconium gives fastest dry. So that is how this paint dries. So in short, what are the functions of finishing paint? To decorate the surface, to hide the surface, to give durability, resistance to water, oxygen absorption, dilute acid, dilute alkali, scratch hardness good. All these properties are required in the finishing paint. Finally, I will try to summarize the whole thing. That helps you to remember. Means you should be able to understand the things properly. So we revise. Go to first page. What are the functions of primer? Adhesion. Number one, adhesion. Second is protection against corrosion. And third is ready for the next coat. Means next coat should be applied very easily. Then sealer. Sealer composition, what it is? It will seal the micropores which are present on the surface of either your walls, that is plaster of Paris or cement or wood. Wood is also having a porous structure. Small pores are there in all these, and these pores may eat up the binder. So what is the function of a sealer? To seal those pores so that your medium is not lost. That is the function of sealer. What is stopper? Still there are more heavier imperfections on the surface. Say nail, crack or deep indentations. These are some of the places where there is absolute abnormality on the surface. To cover that abnormality, we make a thick paste and apply it. There is one more preparation which is known as filler. Filler is nothing but same composition as stopper, but dilute it with mineral turpentine so that you can apply it with a brush. Then it becomes, stopper becomes filler. Okay. Then comes undercoat. What is undercoat? It is function. Always remember, I always ask this question in many of the examinations, and people are not able to spell out properly the functions of a coating. That is more important. Instead of giving formulation, you must know the function. So what is the function? To give opacity and build. Build means uniform coloration. Undercoat. And it must take up the finishing coat, means it should not have great shine. If it has great shine, the finishing coat will not be taken up on this undercoat. It should have eggshell finish. And it should not have sagging. Sagging or curtaining means when you apply with a brush, it has a tendency to slack down the wall or surface. That is undercoat. And finishing coat is the final coat which has to make the surface beautiful, durable, longer lasting, resistance to various environmental conditions. That is finishing coat. The cost of the finishing coat is the highest. That is how we finish with the chapter on classification of paints. You can ask questions to me about whatever lecture I have given today. If you just go through the contents and try to find out, I have tried to explain as much as I can, but if you feel that something is not very clear, you can ask.
सर हेलो सर प्रॉपर्टीज ऑफ प्राइमर में आपने बोला कि विस्कोसिटी शुड बी आइडियल सर आइडियल हाउ मतलब अकॉर्डिंग टू सरफेस की कैसे मतलब
No, according to method of application. Suppose you are using a brush, then the viscosity has to be 100 to 120 seconds. But if I am spraying it, spray viscosity is very thin. It is say 40 to 50 seconds by 4 cup number 4. So you have to choose a proper viscosity for application, then only it will be functional. Suppose I give you an example. Let's suppose I want to spray the paint. And if I do not maintain the viscosity of 50 seconds, I make the viscosity 100. It will not come out of the spray gun. Similarly, on brushing, suppose I am painting with a brush, and if in brushing I keep it very thin, what will happen? It will not apply properly, it will have a sagging feeling. So therefore it is mentioned that the viscosity should be ideal. It depends on method of application mainly.
सर एक और है डाउट,
हाँ,
हाई डिग्री ऑफ इम्पर्मिएबिलिटी टू मॉइस्चर एंड ऑक्सीजन, ये आपने बताया था, ये अपने
moisture
प्राइमर
and
की प्रॉपर ऑक्सीजन के लिए. हेलो 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 आवाज आ रही है मेरी? हेलो
हाँ तेरी आ रही है, नेटवर्क इशू है सर का. यस सरला फोन कर ना.
हो करून पाहत होता.
तुमच्याद्वारे डायल केला गेलेला नंबर ह्यावेळेस व्यस्त आहे. कृपया थोड्या वेळाने प्रयत्न करा. तुमच्याद्वारे डायल केला गेलेला नंबर ह्यावेळेस व्यस्त आहे. कृपया थोड्या वेळाने प्रयत्न करा. The number you have dialed is currently busy. तुमच्याद्वारे डायल केला गेलेला नंबर ह्यावेळेस व्यस्त आहे. कृपया थोड्या वेळाने प्रयत्न करा. The number you have dialed is currently busy. तुम्ही ज्या व्यक्तीला कॉल करत
फोन नहीं उठा रहे सर.
Sir, you are mute. Sir, mute हो sir.
येतोय का?
येस सर.
सर
आता
हो
येईल.
हा,
सर.
तर we can continue. 5 मिनिटामध्ये तुम्ही विचारू शकता काही दुसऱ्या गोष्टी विचारू. if I want to safeguard the surface, the best thing is this, that the penetration of moisture. Because all porous surfaces have tendency to penetrate moisture or absorption of oxygen. So whatever layer which you are maintaining, this layer should be 100% impermeable, it cannot be. But more impermeable it is, better it is. And you have to make such a composition so that the permeability is least. It cannot be zero, remember. Moisture and oxygen are very powerful things, so you cannot 100% ban them. But the minimum, the better the composition. And you have to formulate your paint in such a manner that the impermeability is maximum. Rakshit,
Yes, sir.
anything else? Do you want to know? एखादा पॉइंट तुझ्या लक्षात येतोय का? यश, तुझ्या लक्षात काही पॉइंट येतोय का? जो थोडा
Sir,
जास्त
sir, related to sealer.
Sealer.
Yes, sir.
I have told you that there are some surfaces which are plain, like your iron, steel, aluminum. They are plain surfaces. Is it not?
Yes, sir.
While there are some surfaces which are porous. Say your cement concrete wall, plastered wall, wood. Wood has a very fine microstructure in which there is a capillary effect. Small micropores are there. So these surfaces need a different treatment. Why? Because when you apply the paint, these micropores will suck up your medium. Suppose I am adding 35% binder. If 20% is taken by the surface, then paint will vanish. The pigment will not bind to the surface because it has lost its binder. So what I want to do as a sealer, that whatever micropores are there, they should be covered. If you stopper is also the same thing. Bigger holes, stopper. Smaller micro holes, sealer. In between, fillers. All these have one function, that they want to overcome the porosity of the surface. And that is absolutely essential. Otherwise, the next coat will never come into action. Anybody else?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir,
Now,
sir, we are using short oil alkyd in stopper and long oil alkyd in finishing paint. Sir, what is the basic reason?
yes, I can tell you. Short oil alkyl, where we have used?
In stopper, sir.
Stopper is meant to dry as fast as it can. Because after application of the stopper, you cannot wait for a very long time.
Yes.
After application, it must dry as immediately as possible. The shorter the oil length, the faster the drying. This point, if the oil it will dry faster. The oil is 70%, it will take a more time. So in stopper, particularly what I am interested that is ठीक है.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
What is soluble salt, sir? Soluble salt.
Huh. What happens that if there is a contamination of sodium chloride, sodium sulfate, it will reduce the water solubility or water resistance because they are soluble in water. So let us say an example that your pigment contains 0.5% sodium chloride, let us say. Okay. Now that sodium chloride will make everything susceptible to moisture because salt will have a tendency to take up water. Sodium sulfate will have the same tendency. So naturally any salt if you take, it will spoil your film. Therefore, whatever pigments which you are using, they should be free from salts.
Okay, sir.
I think that is sufficient for today. We will meet next time on Monday. Monday next, are you available? Just check your timetable. Find out.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
मंडेला परीक्षा वगैरे तर नाही आहे काही दुसरी अडचण पहा बरं जरा
सर
सर
ट्यूसडेला
मंडे को
एग्जाम आहे.
होली है
हा
मंडे को होली है
सर ट्यूसडेला एग्जाम आहे.
नाही मंडेला होळी आहे का
यस सर
हो हो सर, मंडेला होळी आहे.
होळीच्या दिवशी मी तुम्हाला क्लास घेणं म्हणजे खूपच जबरदस्ती वाला काम हो गया ऐसा नहीं है मंडे छोड़ दो
हो सर.
मंडे छोड़ दो
When-
ट्यूसडे छोड़ दो आर यू अवेलेबल ऑन वेंसडे
Yes, sir.
सर कॅन वी टेक क्लास ऑन फ्रायडे सॅटरडे अँड संडे?
फ्रायडे yes certainly why not
सर बिकॉज अवर एक्झाम ऑल्सो गेट्स ओव्हर ऑन थर्सडे.
नहीं आर यू फ्री ऑन फ्राइडे सैटरडे संडे यू टेल मी
Yes, sir.
येस सर.
huh?
येस सर.
I want that I must take continuously some classes that will have a direct impact. नहीं तो क्या होता है एक दिन में भूल जाते फिर सब. अभी आपका जो स्टेटस है ना मैं खुद भी भूल जाता था एक बार पढ़ाने के बाद भूल जाते थे तो फिर वो लिंक नहीं होता मटेरियल है ना. अच्छा दो चीज भूल गया मैं आप क्वेश्चंस लिखिए ये अपन ने पूरे जो टॉपिक्स लिखे ना इसके ऊपर एक दो क्वेश्चंस लिख लीजिए प्लीज प्लीज राइट डाउन. Write down question 1. What are basic ingredients in paints? Explain their role in paint composition. Discuss the role of dryers and additives. Discuss the role of dryers and additives. Question 2. Describe various type of classification of paints. Give a detailed account of functional classification of paints. Explain the role of undercoat. Have you written it?
Yes,
So
sir.
now
Yes,
we
sir.
meet, we decide today that we meet on Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Friday ला तारीख किती आहे सांग मला जरा.
Yes, sir.
Friday ला तारीख
एक
2
Second
तारीख.
of April.
2 तारीख.
2 एप्रिल.
Friday
Second.
ची तारीख हा
2 एप्रिल.
2 एप्रिल ना चालेल मग. फ्रायडे Saturday and Sunday. We will have continuous 3 lectures. That is what I am interested in because link बाद में establish नहीं होती बराबर. So we will meet on Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Okay?
Yes, sir.
That will serve our purpose. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I
Thank you, sir.
enjoyed the
Thank you so
lecture
much.
giving. Whether you enjoyed listening or not, I don't know. Okay.
Yes, sir. We
Yes, sir.
enjoyed a lot, sir.
Eh?
We enjoyed a
Only
lot, sir.
thing which I want to know how many people were present today because on screen I am not able to see all.
Sir, today
Sir,
10
10
people are
student,
present.
10
आपला total
students,
strength किती आहे?
15.
Sir, 15.
हो मग 16 पैकी 10 म्हणजे तरी खूप कमी आहे पर्सेंटेज. मला फक्त 75% मार्क्स मिळाले असं समजतो मी. Anyhow, but try to improve the attendance. बाकीच्यांना सांगा थोडी अटेंडन्स ठेव. कोण नाही आलं मी विजयला सांगतो की हे लोक येत नाही म्हणून. थोडं कान पकडावं लागतं त्याशिवाय लोक शिकत नाही. काही लोकांचा कान पकडणं जरुरी असतं नाही का. बिना कान पकडता पूर्वी छडी असायची आजकाल छडी बिडी चालत नाही म्हणून कान तर पकडू शकतो निदान नाही का. So we have to improve attendance.
Yes, sir.
आणि आय एम इंटरेस्टेड इन कॉन्टॅक्टिंग यू अर्लियर कारण बरेचसे प्रोजेक्ट माझ्या डोक्यामध्ये फिरतात ते पण काय फॅक्टरी बंद आहे सगळे युनिट्स बंद आहे आणि तुम्ही बंद आहात तर त्याच्यामुळे एव्हरीथिंग इज ऑन स्टॉप लेवल. As soon as you come we will meet कारण there are so many things which are in my mind and which should materialize कारण नुसती कल्पना करून चालत नाही. एक्सपेरिमेंटेशन इज द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टंट थिंग. जोपर्यंत स्वतः करत नाही तोपर्यंत समजत नाही काही आणि नुसत्या आयडिया डेव्हलप करत राहिलं तर त्यालाही काही विशेष मिनिंग नाही. यू मस्ट एक्सपेरिमेंट इन द लॅबोरेटरी. आता सध्या अशी परिस्थिती आहे की आता 31 मार्च पर्यंत बंद आहे. पुढे काय होईल गॉड नोज नाही का. तुमच्या परीक्षा केव्हापर्यंत संपतात ते तसं एप्रिलमध्ये.
सर 1 एप्रिल.
1 एप्रिल पर्यंत सर्व संपत.
मला वाटतं जर का एव्हरीथिंग गोज राईट वी कॅन हॅव मीटिंग इन द कॉलेज इन सेकंड वीक ऑफ एप्रिल इफ इट इज पॉसिबल अँड प्रॅक्टिकेबल. आजच्या परिस्थितीमध्ये काहीच सांगता येत नाही काय होईल ते पण वी विल ट्राय टू कॉन्टॅक्ट अँड यू कॅन कॉन्ट्रीब्यूट अ लॉट इन व्हेरियस वेज. तुमच्यामध्ये सगळ्यांमध्ये पोटेन्शियल आहे. यू कॅन डू लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स. फक्त असं आहे की जर का कॉन्टॅक्टच नाही आला तर तुम्ही काय करा. आणि हे तसं मी म्हणजे फारसा काही याच्या फेवरमध्ये नव्हतो. तुमच्या व्हिडिओ टीचिंगचं काही एवढं मला आवडत नाही पण आता काही इलाज नाही म्हणून ठीक आहे. आता काय देर इज नो अदर अल्टरनेटिव्ह कारण सुरुवात तर करायला हवी आहे की नाही. सो वी विल मीट ऑन फ्रायडे सॅटरडे अँड संडे. थँक्यू.
थँक्यू सर. थँक्यू सो मच.
थँक्यू सर.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.